Our next speaker, Arlinda, has read about many suicides in the newspaper over the years. She has written this speech in hope that it will alert us to the problem of suicide and the ways that we can help. Please help me welcome Arlinda Smith, Suicide. Suicide, Arlinda Smith.
Through early morning fog I see visions of the things to be, the pains that are withheld for me. I realize and I can see that suicide is painless. It brings on many changes, and I can take or leave it as I please. And you can do the same thing if you please. Wow.
Thank you for helping. That song, of course, was a theme song from MASH, and I know that most of us remember that. It's a story about one of the doctors who had a little problem. And Hot Lips Houlihan helped him straighten that problem out. Today, I will tell you, or give you an overview of suicide, give you two stories that I know about personally about suicide, and I will tell you how we all can help someone who wants to commit suicide. First, let's look at an overview of suicide. We tend to think that the suicide rate is highest among the young. I know because we've heard all these stories in these later years of kids who jump in front of trains now. That's their mode of suicide. But that isn't true, you know. It's actually the older white male that commits suicide more often. And actually, in the older white male, the older he gets, the more prone he is to committing suicide. White men, 85 and older, have a suicide rate 6 times higher than the national average rate. 6 times higher. In the year 2000, suicide deaths outnumbered homicides 5 to 3. And there may be 8 to 25 suicide attempts for every committed suicide, for a person that dies. 8 to 25. Now, I personally think that's scary. The most common method for both men and women is the firearm. The second for men is hanging. And the second for women is poisoning, and that includes drug-related deaths and overdoses. There are 4 times as many men as women who commit suicide, but women try to commit suicide more often than men do. Men just succeed more. 4 times as many men as women. Now, I'll tell you a couple of stories. I'm going to start with my friend Pauline. When I lived in Stockton before I met my husband Ken, Pauline was a senior citizen who lived next door to me for 12 years. So I was very close to her, and I'd take food over for her that I'd cook for dinner. I would take her some many times during the week, make sure she had a good meal. And she was very talkative, and oftentimes we'd sit in her backyard and we'd swing. She had one of those swings. So we'd swing and we'd talk. So I was going to the university at that time, and she told me about how her mother had committed suicide. She had a father, and he was out working, and the mother wanted to leave her family of 9 children and her husband and run off with another man. And her husband said, absolutely not. It was back in those days where you just didn't do that unless you got an okay from your spouse. She was very despondent, and One day, Pauline, who was the oldest, went into the kitchen, and she looked around the corner and saw her mom looking in the mirror with a gun to her head. And she said, "Pauline, come and join me." She wanted to take Pauline on that trip. And Pauline ran into the other room and got all her brothers and sisters. This was in New York, in the middle of winter with snow. And she just pushed the kids out the window. Everybody went out the window without coats, earmuffs, nothing, out in that cold New York winter snow. And she sent her second oldest sister out to get her father from work. And she went in to try to tell her mother, not getting too close to her, you understand, standing outside the kitchen door and looking into a mirror so that she could see her mother in another mirror. And her mother kept telling her, "Come with me, Pauline. Come with me, let's go together." And Pauline hid outside the kitchen and she wouldn't go. And she saw her mother as her mother shot herself in the head and committed suicide, leaving 9 children. Well, one of her brothers became deaf in one ear because of being out in that snow. And a couple of the other children got cold, but thank goodness that was all that happened to those kids. Now her father wanted Pauline and the one that was next to her to stop going to school and to just stay home and take care of the children. But Pauline was really, really smart, and her teacher came and talked her father into letting the girls do alternate days at school. And so that is how she finally, and now Pauline was young. Pauline was young, of junior high age at that time. 9 children. It was a very sad situation, and even though Pauline was in her 80s when she recited it to me, and I was able to use it for my senior paper at the university, she remembered it like it was yesterday. One of those things forever on her mind. So that was a good friend whose mother committed suicide and had to take on the task of being a mother very early. My next story is a little bit closer. It's about a personal family member. Earlier this month, we heard about Tyler. Tyler is Ken's sister's daughter's husband, ex-husband. And they have 2 children, 2 boys who are 11 and 15. What happened here was they've been separated for years. Okay, so Tyler had a girlfriend and he had personal problems. And there was something going on with him and his girlfriend. The family doesn't really know what happened. But there was friction there between him and his girlfriend. They lived together. And he kept telling his girlfriend, "I'm going to shoot myself, I'm going to shoot myself." So the day came when whatever the problem was came to a head, and he picked up a gun, and whether he meant to or not, he committed suicide. We got that message, I guess in the evening, that said Tyler has shot himself and we're going to the hospital. And then the next day we heard, well, Tyler didn't make it. And Ken's sister came and talked to us yesterday all about it. And we're still praying for that family, and we're praying for the boys because he was very, very close to those boys and spent lots of time with them. So what do you do if you think someone is suicidal? First of all, you have compassion and you let that person know that you care. You listen to everything that person has to say to you, and you're sympathetic, and most of all, you offer hope. You tell them that there's hope and tomorrow will be a better day. Urge them to get help, call a hotline, go to a minister, call the hotline yourself, take them by the hand down to the emergency room, but don't leave them alone. Don't leave them alone. You can make a difference in someone's life. Now I'm going to sing this song one more time. You guys can sing along with me if you can. I know I'm going to go over time now, but... Through early morning fog I see visions of the things to be, the pains that are withheld
Suicide is painless. It brings on many changes, and I can take or leave it if I please. And you can do the same thing if you please.
Toastmasters.
Okay, let's take a minute to write comments for Arlinda on her speech.